hard time. Oh, look at all those flies. Oof. Look at his strength now. That is probably about 300 pounds of kudu. And he's probably maximum about 180, 160 to 180 pounds of leopard. And he's dragging almost double his body weight there. Now what's interesting is that he dragged the small fetus away from this area, probably about 100 meters away, down into a riverbed below us. We couldn't follow exactly where he went. We were sadly not in the small little vehicles that we use for broadcasts, and we're in a much longer limousine, which is very hard to negotiate off-road. So we decided to leave him and head down into the riverbed. But he does have another little stash there, as well as all this meat here. Now, for him to be able to hoist this kill up into a tree, I don't think is possible. It's twice his body weight, and very, very tricky for him to get that wedged into the fork of a tree at the moment. If he manages to feed on it a bit more uninterrupted, oh, there goes some stomach contents, and he's going to probably feed on it like a little piece of spaghetti, sliding it through his front teeth. No, just chomp that bit off. As I was saying though, if he does manage to feed on it for a kind of 24 more hours, then he's got a chance of getting it up into a tree. But the likelihood of him being uninterrupted in the next 24 hours is very, very slim. Either lion or hyena will come into this area, and he will give way to both of them. And Polo on YouTube, spot on. This is certainly a very large meal for one leopard. And if he was interrupted, this would be food for easily 5 full days. And he would stay here for 5 full days, even though by the end of it, there would certainly be 1 or 2 maggots jiggling about the carcass. But it wasn't long ago that his mother, a female leopard called Karula, fed on an adult-grown impala for 5 nights in total. So a nice big meal, but what in all likelihood is going to happen here, look at how he's removing the stomach content there, sliding the stomach lining between his front teeth. Flies are giving him a real hard time there. Imagine having all those flies buzzing around you while you eat your tasty kudu. Here's another great display of his strength. Not easy, because there's a lot of vegetation below him, small plants that are preventing that kudu to move further into the shade, which he's trying to do for a couple of reasons: to keep it cool, as well as to keep it out of view of animals like vultures. Hello to Sleepy One on YouTube, and really enjoying all the new viewers who are watching on YouTube and all the different platforms that you can watch. And it's important to know that there are different platforms where you can watch these safaris. So if one is giving you a bit of hard time, it's worthwhile trying a different one, as it may be a little bit better depending on what country you're in. And oh, look at this. And yes, this leopard certainly does have a name. His name is Mr. Q, or Quarantine. And that's for you, Sleepy One, watching on YouTube. Thank you very much for sending your question through. And all the leopard of the Sabi Sands are named. He's named after an area. And quite often leopard are named after areas. Sometimes they're named after traits, whether they skittish or nervous or sneaky or move big distances. There's various ways that animals will be named, but all of the leopards in the Sabi Sands are named, and it's not because we feel like they are our pets, but it's just from a work perspective. It's good to know who's who moves where, keeping track of lineage, knowing who his mother is, knowing who his likely father is, judging by the dominant male in the area when his mother gives birth, or sometimes you even get to see a female mating with several males, which is actually often the case, and that's why we can never be certain who the father is, because female leopards will often mate with more than one male during one estrus cycle. And I'm told that from one litter, where a female may produce 2 cubs, each cub may have a different father. Fascinating stuff, but apparently that is actually the case. Okay, well, there's a few vehicles getting active now. Ooh, we can smell that now. The wind's blowing straight towards us. What we may be able to do later is try and reposition the vehicle. There was a whole big bunch of scratch marks in and around this kudu's neck, and it must have been an almighty wrestling match between this big male leopard. We are getting a seriously awesome show here, everyone. If this is your first live safari, I would like you to do 2 things. I'd like you to realize how lucky we are and how lucky you are to be getting off to such a great start, and also to let us know who you are and where you're watching. Always good to know there's new people on board, and we can chat with you. That is the beauty of these live interactive safaris. Hello to Shell in Detroit, and to Noah, who's watching on YouTube. And you guys would both like to know, how old is this leopard? And like I was saying earlier, we don't only know their names and often their lineage, but also their age. And he was basically born almost this time 3 years ago. So a 3-year-old male, which makes him independent, not quite fully grown. He's as tall as he will become in all likelihood, but his body is going to fill out, his head is going to become a bit bigger. There's certainly room for a lot more growth, and he'll probably only be in his prime at about 5 years of age to 7 years of age, and could live for up to 15 years, possibly even a little bit longer than that. So he's a youngster, and we've been very, very fortunate in being able to watch him and his brother, called Kunyuma, quite closely since we arrived here this time last year. And it was him and his brother Kunyuma that we definitely spent more time with in our first 6 months of Safari Live than any other 2 leopards. We also haven't seen him for quite a long time, so it's great to have him back on the property. Well, as we watch him feeding on the ground here, wondering what the outcome of this kill is going to be, will he be able to get it up to a tree at some point? Shrub on Twitter has asked, what is the heaviest weight that a male leopard has hoisted up into a tree? And sadly, Shrub, it's so difficult to have accurate weights on all of these things because they're wild animals, and to be able to have an exact measurement or exact weight would understandably be tricky without getting in the way of the animals and interfering too much. But I've heard tales of fully grown a baby giraffe, obviously fully grown and born, being hoisted up into trees, and those will weigh possibly upwards of 100 kilograms. Young zebra foals have also been caught and put up into trees. I've never heard of a kudu being put into a tree, not at least an adult, by a big male leopard, but 200 pounds, their own body weight, is easily achievable, often slightly more. And that same goes for a female. So a 100-pound female would be able to probably hoist 200 pounds worth of animal up into a tree. There's no guarantees, and it will depend on the individual. Looks like he's finished his snack for now. And we were so fortunate that we got to see him feeding now. It was the last thing I expected him to do. It's very, very hot. And I thought closer to about 6:30 this evening we'd see him take his first mouthful. But that is the joy. What a beautiful shot this is through the foliage. And that is the joy of being on a live safari. You simply do not know what is going to happen and when. Even though there are likely outcomes and likely things to happen, this is a great example of simply not knowing what is going to happen next.